Essentially what we're looking at here is a study which was done after the Beijing Olympics by the Canadian Olympic team. They have a program in running which is funded so that they can perhaps, in this year's Olympics, we'll find out how it goes, but their aim is to finish in the top 4 medal-winning nations at the 2012 Olympics. So in London in July, August this year. Now, after 2008, they did a study into the athletes that did win Olympic medals or create a personal best performance in the Beijing Games. What they found is that all of those athletes had these 5 factors in common. So these were performance factors. So we actually used this information, we created a survey, and we could go and look at various sporting programs and different types of sporting codes and look at whether their structures are in place to enable their athletes to be successful. Does that make sense? So they found that these were the 5 critical factors. Now when you look at them, how would you actually order them? I mean, they're all critical. If we look at the strong support system, what are we talking about there in terms of a strong support system? So athletes need to have, and coaches too, mind you, have to have a strong support system made up of? So parents are a critical part of it. Who else? Strong support system. Think about your programs. Parents, friends, team members, part of it. And we're also talking about access to physios, chiropractors, massage, nutritionists, doctors, psychologists, absolutely. Some of the NRL teams that we work with have access to, even priests, counsellors, all of these additional people who can help the athlete get their head in the right space. All right, so that's critical. Management of the competition environment, it's one which is unique to your sport perhaps. If you have to go to another place and play, it's taking care of all of the logistics. And I'll never forget, 92 Olympics, we had the experience of those. They weren't called Magnum ice creams back then, but they were a similar sort of concept. Chocolate-covered ice cream, vanilla in the middle, have as many as you like. So literally, at the Olympics in 92 in Barcelona, my first Olympics I was 18, and every 150 metres there was a freezer full of these Magnum ice creams. Now we come from Australia, so you could go down the shop and buy one of these for a couple of dollars, but some of the countries that compete with the Olympics, so some of the more Eastern Bloc countries, don't have these sort of things. And quite a few of the athletes were regularly eating 6 and 7 or 8 and 9, 10 of these things a day. I mean, it's hard to resist, I know. But add to that 3 McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Coke, you name it. You've got all of these additional things that you wouldn't normally have. All right, so the Olympics is a unique environment that you need to manage well. So stay away from the ice creams. All right, effective training environment, you've got to have the right equipment. So when you think about your program, you've got the right equipment, you've got the right training programs. What else might constitute an effective training environment? Equipment, training. Absolutely safe environment. What else? What else would be part of it? Sports science, biomechanics, all of those type of things form part of that effective training environment. Now we're left with these 2 up the top. So high-level athlete self-awareness, which is, what does that mean?
Read their body, what the body's telling them.
Okay, yeah, they have an understanding as to what their body is telling them, absolutely, and they listen. But what else? If an athlete is self-aware, they understand their ability, they understand their strengths, limitations, they understand their motivations, they understand how they build relationships with other people. They, importantly in the team, they understand the impact that they have on the rest of the athletes, because that team dynamic can either give you a successful season or it can give you a very... Yeah, who's seen issues with that? And who's seen personality clashes bring a team undone? I've experienced it myself. I didn't learn a lot about that until after the 2000 Olympics. Okay, so that's the critical one. And then what's this one in the middle, the strong coach-athlete relationship? What do you think that's all about? Is it about the coach and the athlete being best friends? All of this respect, trust, open communication, those type of things. So the coach-athlete relationship is no different to any other relationship. It needs that concept of reciprocity. So, it's called a bit of what we call a psychological contract. So, I do something for you, you do something in return for me. But absolutely trust and respect, critical components to it. And so the question is, of these 5, what they found is that certainly 2, but then one of them was most important out of all of them. So when you look at this, and all the ways that we've defined them so far, which one would you say was the most critical to creating either a medal-winning performance or a personal best performance at the Olympics? Last one?
I reckon black.
Support system.
Okay, how come? So back it up. So you think maybe support system? How come?
Well, for school-age athletes and things like that, there's a lot of other things going on in their life
Yep.
that's not necessarily directly involved with just the sport.
Absolutely.
So being able to, it does blend into the coach-athlete relationship with obviously, students coming to coaches and being able to openly talk to them, you talk about counsellors and things like
Yeah.
that before. If they don't have the support, then they won't feel a part of the team, they won't train effectively, they won't be able to manage themselves in competition.
Absolutely.
And their relationships will fail.
Yeah, so one sort of flows into the other there, right? But if you have as you said, if you have one of those coaches that the athlete thinks that they can talk to and communicate to, and you have a coach who doesn't just think of the athlete as a machine or a number, but as a whole person. So knows that they're a student, knows that they're a daughter to someone, that they're a friend to someone else, but sees the whole pie and all the individual components, and that if the athlete's performance is not perhaps what the coach would like it to be, any one of those factors could be the cause, right? Yeah. So the one in the middle, and to a degree, high-level athlete self-awareness, are the two that can't be bought. Everything else has just got a price tag attached to it. I'll give you a good example. Back in 1993, the club that I ended up rowing for a long time down in Sydney was called UTS Haberfield Rowing Club. And at the time in 93, the club was bankrupt. It wasn't called UTS Haberfield, it was just called Haberfield Rowing Club. Anyone ever been there? Okay, at Haberfield. And the university, so UTS, University of Technology Sydney, took over the club and they spent $1 million renovating the facility. It wasn't a fantastic job, they would admit that too. They were basically taking a very old facility and trying to update it. Doors still don't close properly when it rains. The rain gets in underneath the roller doors. You walk in the front door, there's a terrible smell. I don't even want to tell you what that is. But it's not a great facility. In fact, it's one of the worst facilities as a facility that stands alone. It's just not great. But what they did do is they recruited a coach by the name of Tim McLaren, and Tim had just coached the men's double scull, so two-oar rowing event at the '92 Olympics to a gold medal. And it was one of the greatest, still is, one of the greatest gold medals Australia's ever won at the Olympics. These guys, they were, one was 72 kilos and the other one was about 76 kilos. They raced against people my size, so I'm 2 metres tall and just over 100 kilos, and they beat them. And if you ever see the photo, you'll notice it because they basically these little guys in the middle, and they got their arms up here, putting their arms around the silver and bronze medalists. So UTF recruited Tim, and over the ensuing Olympics, so from 96, 2000 and 2004 Olympics, Tim managed to have more than 34 athletes selected on Olympic teams, and many of those athletes winning medals. Now, that without all of the wonderful support structures and training environment and equipment. We had good equipment. We had one eight. It's about a $20,000 eight, so probably not even as expensive as what your school kids would ride. That was our boat. We had the benefit of going to visit Princeton in New Jersey, the Princeton Rowing Club. Has anyone ever been over to see Princeton? One of those big Division I colleges in the States. We do a lot of work over there now. And Princeton at the time had renovated their facility around about the same time that Haberfield renovated their facility in '93. So we spent $1 million, Princeton. Any guesses as to how much they spent? They already had their own private lake, mind you. It was actually. It was 14 million US. Yeah, it's not 20 million in today's terms, but at the time it was 20 million Australian. And over the same period of time, they had roughly half the number of Olympic athletes selected from their facility as what we had from ours. And so I learned a very important lesson from that, and it's all about the people. Business is all about the people, sport is all about the people. We can overcome a lot of the other things there.